Hello, I'm Paul Wood, anxiety hypnotherapist, and I'm going to speak to you for 2 quick minutes. And we're going to go deep in this 2 minutes to really help you to find out whether avoidance is destroying your life. Now, before I continue, I want to suggest that you don't know if it is. You've got no idea. It's an unconscious habit. And what we're going to do today is we're going to bring that unconscious habit to your awareness so you can really find out whether it's something that's affecting you in a massive way in your life or it isn't. So firstly, what is avoidance? Well, avoidance is this. You don't really avoid situations. What you avoid is the way situations make us feel. So if you imagine when we're a child, when we're very young, we don't really have the idea of emotions we want to avoid. We experience good emotions and bad emotions as one. Emotions flow through us and we just experience them in the meanings which they have to offer. But what happens to people is this. You experience those emotions. Maybe it's frustration, guilt, rejection. And if you do not have someone around you, a parent, a relative, to be loving and caring and pick you up and give you a hug when you experience those things. For example, if you're at school and you're 4 years old, which is incredibly young, you experience guilt, fear, worry, frustration, rejection. You ask the first guy and she says no, whatever it is. And, you should have someone there who's loving and caring to support you and hold you. But if you don't, you begin to develop fear and frustration towards these feelings. So initially, before, all emotions weren't good or bad. They just flowed through you beautifully and you experience them in their fullest. But then suddenly, you begin to dislike them. And then what happens? Well, if you dislike emotions and they begin to feel horrific, they begin to feel horrible, you even deciding to them, I don't want to experience this feeling. I'll do anything to avoid experience this feeling. And that is when it starts. The moment you make that decision. Because what we can't do is avoid emotions. All we can do, all emotions are, is our mind generalizing that a certain situation means this. Therefore I feel that emotion, which is based on the meaning. So to avoid emotions, what we have to do is avoid any future situation that we could perceive our mind possibly generalize that it means this thing. So if we want to avoid rejection, we have to avoid anything, absolutely anything in the future that could possibly lead to our mind generalizing, oh my God, this equals rejection. And let's look at that for a moment. Let's look at that. So what does happen? What do you really need to do? If that's your strategy to avoid those feelings because you've learned, for your young childhood that they're horrific and you'll do anything not to feel them. Well, avoidance is this, to avoid rejection, to avoid guilt, to avoid being hurt, to avoid sadness. You have to avoid any situation that could possibly cause that feeling. The problem is 80% of life situations could possibly cause that feeling. Which leaves you what? It leaves you 10 to 20% to live your life in. 10 to 20%. And because you avoid all those feelings, because you avoid all of those situations as well, it guarantees that you don't experience the peak emotions. Ecstasy, passion, excitement. Feeling really, really sense of success in your life for achieving something, remarkable. It guarantees you won't experience those emotions. So what happens? People avoid these emotions that they decide are horrible and they don't want to feel them, which guarantees they avoid the top emotions. Ecstasy, feeling passionate, feeling excited, feeling good in themselves, really successful, feeling proud of themselves, feeling fulfilled on a deeper level, which means they settle to about here. So they never really experience the real horrific feelings that they want to avoid and don't experience the highest feelings. They settle about here and they live their life in that 10 to 20%. Which sucks, which is absolutely a ridiculous way to live your life, isn't it? And I know that we all do it from time to time, but be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Have you experienced rejection recently? Have you experienced guilt recently? Have you experienced sadness recently? Have you experienced really debilitating fear recently? Have you experienced these things by you going out there and you facing a situation, consciously choosing to, that's produced those feelings within you? If you have, great, then you're moving forward in your life. But if not, what happens is this. We get caught in that small 10 to 20%. Now, the most important human value is growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. The most important human value is growth. What I mean by that is growing your confidence, growing your self-esteem, growing emotionally, growing intelligently, growing financially, growing in every single way. The strongest driving force you have in your human body is that, to grow, to achieve. Now let's look at that for conflict. And the moment you make the decision to live your life in that 10 to 20%, the problem is that 80% is where you're going to get all the growth in your life. So you guarantee that your life will not improve. Without that improving, what happens? Our self-esteem gets lower, our confidence levels go down, we avoid more things. Then we could begin to develop a sense of fear, a sense of worry, a sense of anxiety about any of that 80%. Really frustrating, isn't it? So when you look at your anxiety, yes, there may be some part to play thinking, well, I can't do those things because they increase my anxiety. But the overriding factor is avoidance. Avoidance is a bigger problem in your life than anxiety. I know they're two sides of the same coin to a certain extent, but avoidance is the real problem, because avoidance can maintain your anxiety forever. Because if I don't grow, if I don't improve, if my confidence, my self-esteem continues to get worse, it's going to be unbelievably easy for me to feel anxious, isn't it? Because I'm not going to have the skills, the capabilities, the resources to actually live and live my life. For example, social anxiety is a fantastic example. If I learned at a young age that rejection in communication, or someone saying something to me, this or that, I have to avoid those things at all costs, what will happen is I'll probably experience 95, 99% less conversations than someone who didn't have that association. So over the course of 10 years, from 10 to 20, by the time I get to 20, I'm going to be massively behind in my communication skills, massively behind being in touch with myself emotionally, massively behind being able to relate to people and connect to people in a way that they understand me, tremendously behind. So obviously that's going to make me feel anxious because I don't have the skills to actually connect with people. And that's going to make me want to avoid it because I don't have the skills to do it in a good way. So you can see that avoidance is the bigger problem. Now, I'm not here to tell you to make a decision about what's the right direction for you or not, but just take a step back for a moment. Take a step back and really look at the effect that has on your life. Not over today, not over a week, but over a month, over a year, over 10 years. Because in the moment, yeah, there's nothing wrong, is there? If there's something I don't want to do now, just to avoid it. I can avoid feeling rejected, I can avoid feeling hurt, I can avoid feeling sad. But if that's a habit that becomes, really, it becomes, one of the forefront distinctions, or it becomes something that pulls you forward in your life. So your brain makes decisions based on, will I experience these feelings, will I experience these feelings, will I experience these feelings? That's how your mind decides what you're willing to do or not willing to do in your life. So it controls all your actions and all your behaviours. Now if that's the case, just really look at the direction you're headed in over the next year, next 2 years, next 5 years, next 10 years. Because you guarantee over those 10 years, you're not going to improve. You're not going to grow as a person. Your confidence and self-esteem are unlikely to continue in that direction. So knowing that, whatever emotional problems you have is only going to make them worse. So make a decision today. Really decide in yourself. Now you've become conscious, you're aware of that unconscious debilitating pattern that's controlling so much of your behaviours, so much of your thoughts, so much of your decisions in your life. Make a decision about what's the right direction for you.